I see a lot of confusion in teacher training. It stems from an overall confusion in education, which is, of course, a reflection of an even bigger ideological confusion in our culture. Arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic seems to be a good thing, although safe navigation should be a much bigger priority. Fussing with the deck chairs before the iceberg is just pedantry. Fussing with the deck chairs after the iceberg, insanity. Academic rigor is often sold in elite private schools as a means of discipline. Elitism and the elitist mindset in itself creates enough problems for the inmates in their crisp uniforms. In many schools, technology is worshipped and presented as the safest bet to future-proof the kids. Another widespread belief in education is that the kids have to be agents of change. Activism is what makes life worthy of living, right? The majority of public schools just go with an eclectic mix of seemingly up-to-date hodgepodge curriculum. We have lots of ideas about how the deck chairs should be arranged. Consciousness, empathy, creativity, resilience, and the pursuit of meaning and purpose make us human. Babies don't come equipped with these wonderful things. Each individual on this planet is a uniquely written story, a story written by our parents and the people around us, and we continue to write, revise, and edit it for ourselves. We have to be able to read people and interpret their stories. All sorts of problems come up when we cannot read each other. We are social creatures living in communities. We need to get along with each other without creating conflict after conflict. But most importantly, we need to be able to work together. We carry a divine spark, and we know it. This is why we have a built-in respectometer. It's a sensitive gauge that's immediately in the red if we are not treated with respect. We developed an elaborate system of rules for protecting our most important individual rights in a way that's also fair for everybody else. Our respectometers are active even when nobody breaks the law or violates our boundaries. Respect is measured in every kind of relationship. Are we happy with each other? Do we trust each other? Can we work together? Not much happens without mutual respect. Jean-Paul Sartre said, "Hell is the other people." Well, every one of us, and all the time. While the existentialists are big on meaninglessness and arbitrariness, Viktor Frankl believes in purpose and love. He writes in Man's Search for Meaning, "In the concentration camps, we watched and witnessed some of our comrades behave like swine, while others behave like saints. Man has both potentialities within himself. Which one is actualized depends on decisions and not on conditions." Jake looked a bit different. For starters, he had a bulbous forehead, he had these big gray eyes and red lippage, and this looked somehow oddly colorized against his pale pink skin. He moved around with an awkward gangsta walk, and when he stopped, he froze into these random hunched positions. His perennial facial expression was priceless. He looked like the grumpy cat or the angry bodhisattva. When the kids purposely yanked his chain, he flew himself into a rage in a strange choreographed way. The wheels were turning in his head. His eyes bulged out. His face got red. He made fists. Grinding his teeth, he was mumbling to himself. Once he figured that he was sufficiently mad, he exploded. But his pathetic yelling did not have the desired effect. The kids saw his threat display as something theatrically exaggerated and irresistibly amusing. So they kept pushing his buttons for entertainment purposes. There was no escape for Jake. The system protected the yahoos who tormented him. He ended up in the office with the craziest Three Stooges type offenses like biting somebody's bum, yelling into somebody's ear, and eye pokes. He was told 1,000,000 times not to lay a hand on anybody, and if the kids teased him, he was supposed to talk to the yard duty teacher. He never did. All of Jake's previous teachers thought that he had an anger management issue, and they just sat on him. It was pure suppression, without any attempts to investigate the root cause of the problem. Jake was regularly bullied and suffered additional injustice from the system as he got consequenced as a repeat offender. Jake ended up in my grade 5 class. Using the element of surprise on the first day, I gave him a nickname, Yakey Boy. The kids laughed, but it was a good kind of laughter, and Yakey Boy enjoyed the positive attention, which was a new experience for him. I caught him a deal. Whenever I was on yard duty, he was allowed to walk with me as my sheriff's deputy. I deputized him. He ate it up. I always had my yard duty in the intermediate yard, and the big kids started to discover that Yakey was not just an unfortunate caricature, but rather an original character. My sidekick became their mascot. Yakey's conversations with the big kids were refreshingly funny. And once they concluded that the kid was cool, Yakey was elevated to a protected status. I talked to Jake's father, a smiley, jovial French character. He had a first-hand experience of the mean streets of Montreal, where fighting off street bullies was his daily routine back then. He taught his son to defend himself decisively. He believed in the power of a preemptive strike and taught his son to respond to provocations by striking first and striking hard to deter escalation. Now, it is hard to dismiss somebody's life experience. So I explained to him that in middle-class suburban Toronto, the rules of engagement were vastly different, and this caused a conflict in his son. But what he needed to hear from a credible witness is that his son wasn't a fighter like him. It wasn't in the kid. And when he tried to do what his father wanted him to do, it backfired. In a way, it seemed like an inconclusive meeting, but at least we understood each other's position better. The father walked away with a good feeling that with me, his son won't be automatically stereotyped and suppressed. The principal asked me to take a drama course. For my final mark, I had to write and direct a school play and sum up my experiences in an essay. I was allowed to pick the best kids from any of the classes, so I picked big kids, little kids. I produced a light-hearted farce with musical numbers and dancing and lots of physical comedy. I wrote the old, angry Jake into the play, and of course he played himself brilliantly. His meltdown on the stage was a raging success, pun intended, and he became a celebrity in the school. He must be about 35 now. I have no idea what he decided to do with his life, but I hope that he uses his acting talent to his best advantage. The adult Yakey Boy is probably a charming and original funny guy, just like his father. So what should we teach to teacher candidates? Public servants should be humble. Approach people with respect. Don't just say it, practice it. Respect the divine spark in everybody, even kids like Yakey Boy. Listen to people. They will tell you their story, and if they don't, read them. Read and interpret the little signs. Read between the lines. People reveal themselves. Individuality should not be seen as a threat that has to be eliminated with forced conformity. Teachers should cleverly and creatively use the kids' individuality as a motivation for all of us. And don't forget those wonderful things that make us human.